Hello and welcome to another episode of the Opportunity Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Elfring, the head of marketing over here at Empire Flippers. And today I am speaking with Sergey Lucktinov. He is a founder of his own AI agency that's helping people get more discoverability in all the different LLMs that are coming out and popping out on the internet. And he has a very deep background when it comes to semantic SEO. And what was really interesting talking to him is while things are changing in terms of how we do SEO, how do we get organic discoverability, a lot of it is kind of like an iteration versus like a completely different thing. We were talking about all the different ways you can rank in the LMs. And he was trained by a buddy of mine, Corey, who's also extremely an expert when it comes to this type of stuff. But I noticed like, oh, this is kind of like a evolved version of a topical map or a silo structure, all that kind of stuff. So that's the good news. And the other good news, according to Sergey, is like I wouldn't say like easy, but it's much easier, I should say, to rank in some of these LMs to get some pretty high converting traffic. Sergey brings it up, but I've seen it as well that even though the traffic isn't as big as say SEO is, and at least in SEO's heyday, the conversion intent is actually much higher based on all the context and the inherent trust that the reader has within the LM portal. So we talk a little bit about tracking, a little bit about what's changing, a little bit about what's coming down the pipeline, which I mostly agree with what he was saying. So with that said, I'll stop talking here and we'll get into it. So if you want to learn how to rank inside of ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude, this is the episode for you. Talk to you soon and see you on the other side. All right, I got Sergey, the founder of Semantic Vector, with me today. He runs a SEO agency and has a pretty interesting framework called SRO, which we're going to get into. But Sergey, please, for my audience that doesn't know who you are, why don't you talk a bit about yourself, who you are, what you're doing, and where you are in the world?
Yes, my name is Sergey Lucktinov. Right now I'm in Valencia, Spain, but I lived in New York for the last 25 years. And I've been an SEO for about 15 years. I started as an in-house, probably like all of us, as an in-house expert. And I've been doing everything from SEO to PPC to CRO. And then I decided if I can do it for one business, I can do it for many businesses. So I started an agency. I had it for 3, 4 years. Didn't really like agency life. So I switched to affiliate. And I've been doing affiliate for the last 10 years very successfully up until about 2 years ago. That's when was the first time when my sites got penalized. I didn't understand why, because I was using authority site model, if that tells you something. I'm a systems guy, so I was trying to figure out what exactly is not working. And that's about the time when I met Koray at his Saigon speech. And that clicked with me very well because he was answering the questions that I couldn't answer. So I started learning his framework. I got his course. I started analyzing his videos, his case studies, started going into patents. And I learned his framework very well, semantic SEO. Then, like a year ago, the LLM wave happened. So everybody started saying, like, SEO is going to die, LLM is taking over, all of that usual stuff that happens every 5 years. So I decided that I need to learn what is LLM, how it works, and how I can use it. And I started taking AI infrastructure courses, AI engineering courses. And that's when it clicked with me the second time because I realized that Karai's framework is perfectly the terminology and everything, the concepts, they match perfectly how LLMs work. And I started analyzing and exploring the subject more. I was analyzing LLM patterns, and I thought that if Corey's framework, semantic SEO, works well for traditional Google, traditional SRPs, then maybe it could work for LLMs as well. So what I've done, I fine-tuned Corey's framework to apply it specifically to LLM first. And this is how I came up with this system, which I call semantic retrieval optimization. And the beauty of it is that it combines all of the popular concepts right now, like GEO, AEO, AIO, under one umbrella, because all of those concepts, they are like blind people touching an elephant and trying to explain what an elephant is. They all correct, but they miss in the big picture. And this SRO framework, it's kind of like the big picture, which combines all of those concepts and fine tunes them and extends them properly into actual framework.
Gotcha. I'm glad you brought up our friend Corey. So that way, once this podcast is live, you could tell him, like, hey, Greg and me talked about you. And I'll tell him it was towards the end of the podcast. So you'll just like forward at the very end instead of listen, where am I? Where am I? Give you some extra listen time from Corey. I love his stuff. He is quite technical. It sounds like you went down quite the technical route too. And yeah, like from my experience, SEO has been in a I'd say in a rough spot in the last couple of years. There's definitely wins to still be had, but AI has definitely changed the game. So I guess my first question for you, I mean, after going through actual AI engineering courses as an SEO, in your view, how has AI transformed SEO, and what does this mean for people like who still want to get visibility through Google? Like, what are you seeing happening right now?
The major problem that I felt myself when my websites got penalized is that right now Google and search engines are switching from keywords to entities. Google was kind of a little bit slow to LLM scene. They got beaten to the punch by ChatGPT. So they started kind of ramping up everything, the infrastructure, and they are very good. They have a lot of very powerful patents on these topics. So they started implementing this into their traditional search algorithm. So they started switching from keywords, from indexed pages and an algorithm to more entity friendly and more LLM friendly kind of infrastructure. Like right now, they have two indexes. They have the main index and they have vectorized database, and they kind of ran in a parallel. So if you want to optimize your website right now, you need to make sure that you speak AI language, so to speak. So your website makes sense to AI. Like back in the day, all of my affiliate sites, like my strategy for beating competitors was to create the best content possible. And the strategy sounds good on the surface, but in the LLM era, that's actually very bad because if you introduce a lot of unrelated stuff, if you just try to inflate your article with more content and you think that this makes your content high quality, no, you're wrong. Like it's not. Right now, the main idea is not to make it the largest article, to make it the most meaningful article. So it matches the intent of the person who does the search and answers the question quickly, and it doesn't go into unrelated topics. So it stays super concentrated, super targeted on a specific problem that the user is trying to solve. And LLM thinks the same way. Like this is actually coming from LLM. This is why Google kind of follows LLM logic, and people see it in current SEO industry.
Gotcha. And tell us a bit about this SRO system. So I assume this is what you're using to like diagnose, measure, optimize versus the more traditional SEO tools. So talk to me a bit about, what your findings are. Like how do you make this switch from say keywords to these entities that the LLMs are looking for?
SRO framework is all about making sure that your meaning is well understood by an LLM. And
Like you're the intent of the article, yeah?
yes, so like let's
Gotcha.
say when you create an article, your first 50 or 70 words, that's where you put your answer. Like you don't put the answer to the topic in the middle of the article or in the end of the article. You lead with the meaning. So when LLM comes to your page, it sees one of the most important strategies or tactics that LLM uses, or the way it works, is it comes to a page and it checks the structure. If structure makes sense, it checks the first chunk. And the first chunk is the first section that it sees on the page. If that chunk is irrelevant to the topic, it discards the page. Like it's not gonna continue. Like it just usually LLMs have up to 200 different pages to analyze. And the first stages it does elimination round. So it finds reasons not to consider your page. And if you don't lead with the meaning, you completely remove yourself from the list. Like it sees the page is not relevant. It doesn't want to analyze it more because it costs money. So it's just gonna move on and it's gonna pick up another page that's more relevant and it's gonna analyze that page. So that's first concept of semantic retrieval optimization. The second concept is stability. And by stability, I mean your chunks, they're supposed to be self-contained. So basically you break down your article into like this meaningful chunks of useful information. So you should be able to take a small part of your site and it should make sense. Like your sections should not continue on explaining different information or like mixing different information in different sections of the page. Every page, because LLM retrieves in chunks, and a chunk is like the minimum unit that it can analyze. So when your chunk is self-contained, it brings stability. LLM knows that, okay, like this, I can work with this. Like I don't have to analyze other sections on the page and then compile an answer from those chunks into one answer. And the last aspect is technical issues. So like your website has to be fast, because when LLMs go through fan out process, which is how they fetch, how they see all the pages, how they compile the list of all the pages, all the candidates that they can later on use for the answer. The first major factor is how quick is the page? How are technical factors? How stable it from a technical point of view? If you fail those, you removed from the analysis as well. So those are like three main factors, and they go into other things. Usually, the main aspects they come from Corey's framework. It's macro semantics, micro semantics, and technical stuff. So if you do those, you're gonna be well treated by LLMs.
So would you say those are like the key things business owners should be doing to become more discoverable by AI? And I guess also does like not just the AI, but you do this stuff and is it also working on like, organic SEO front as well? Or are you seeing that those are two very different channels at the moment?
Yeah, the way I designed this framework, it's basically 90% of Corey's framework and 10% of my own changes that are applicable to LLM
So you
specifically.
fixed his framework to be clear. If he's
It's not
if
fixed.
if
No,
he's
no.
listening to this,
No, his
you
framework is awesome.
you won't believe what Greg just said.
Koray is genius that he came up with this concept in the age when you couldn't analyze all these patterns through LLMs. His framework is ingenious, but the way he designed his framework, it's for SRP age. It's for old Google. It works super well. Like if you create a website based on Koray framework, it's gonna rank very well in traditional SEO. What I've done, I changed small things, about 10% of the concepts, to reflect proper LLM infrastructure. So my linking strategy is slightly different. My SEN strategy is also slightly different, but it all follows Caray's framework. And the best part is that if you're gonna apply semantic retrieval optimization, you're gonna rank very well in search engines as well. Just the same thing as with Caray's framework.
Okay, so like following the SRO, which is like a modified version of like Corey's topical maps, all that kind of good stuff he's doing, you'll see visibility both in the LLMs and SEO, like organic SEO, like traditional SEO.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. I think that is interesting about what you said earlier about how like you could basically have to get to the point so quickly now, which I actually like because man, I remember writing those old school articles where you have to write like a 5,000 word article. You just like grabbing more topics from like Surfer or Page Optimizer, whatever tool you're using, and you suddenly have this monster thing. So I remember those good old days. I'm glad to see that's kind of fading. What would you say about like commercial giants? So in old school SEO, there was always, domain rating, domain authority, all that kind of stuff, topical maps. And like these giants just like they rank for everything, they scoop everything up. But now in this age of AI, do commercial giants still have like a similar advantage as they did with traditional SEO, or do you think it's kind of equalized the playing field with like smaller startups?
Yeah, I think it equalized AI. I know a lot of people complain that SEO is dead. I'm looking at it from the different point of view. I think, first of all, SEO is not dead. SEO is still the foundation for everything. So it's a little bit early, give it maybe like another 10 years. But for smaller companies, there is actually a lot of opportunity because big companies, how they run. They're very unwieldy. They can't
Yeah.
switch. There is a lot of internal politics that's involved. You need to create an article, you gotta run it through a couple departments. With LLMs, and when you apply this framework, you can start very quickly and you can outsmart big brands. You don't need huge domain rating. You don't need to build tens of thousands worth of link every month to even compete with those guys. All you gotta do, you have to optimize your website for retrieval for your specific customer. So you don't optimize for keywords, you optimize for customer journey. Because the way LLM works, it doesn't use keyword volumes are irrelevant. It's all about context. It's all about what people write in their chats. It's all about how well LLM knows that user, because some context window stays in a chat account. Like, if you use ChatGPT and you speak with it for a couple months, you can even test it. Like, you can ask, what do you think about me? And it's going to give you pretty
Oh yeah.
good kind of explanation who you are. So when you're gonna ask this ULLM to offer you a product that fits your perfect pain points, it's gonna give you the page and the brand that matches you perfectly because it knows who you are. And for smaller brands, it's very important because you can optimize for that, for the journey. You can optimize for those long tail keywords, and you can rank for them really quickly without any issues, without huge domain rating. Instead of showing up in SRP on the first page, you're going to be offered in LLM, and it's going to explain like, okay, this brand is good for you because this brand, it says that it's best for XYZ customer who has ABC problem, and that's you. And it's going to say, okay, this brand. And when you see that brand, you think that LLM did all the due diligence for you, so you trust it more. And you're gonna either click a link in your chat or you're gonna use a branded search and you're gonna go to the website and make a purchase. It's like a friend gave you a referral and you're much more likely to buy. And this is very powerful because you don't have to, big companies, they will never do that. Maybe eventually, but smaller companies, it's relatively easy to optimize. You just need to know what you're doing. And in a couple of months, you can get that long tail traffic pretty effective.
So moving into, I guess, what would be kind of like the off page in this AI era, these semantic content networks, SENs. You're saying these replace backlinks now, though, with how you're doing things. So maybe first let's explain what a SEN is, but also talk to me why this is replacing backlinks for AI discovery.
It's not replacing backlinks. They serve different purposes. So semantic
Gotcha.
content network, it's how you structure your website, how you structure your pages. And
So this is still on page on your actual website. You're doing the
yeah,
SEN.
this is how you do your website structure basically. What kind of pages you have and how they relate to each other. And this comes from actually information retrieval infrastructure, because that's how LLMs see the data in their vector database. They see it and you mimic it. So LLMs understand that very well when they see it, and that's why it's so effective. And the way it works, you build the macro pages. There are three levels of pages. There is macro page, there is seed page, and there is node page. This is all Craze terminology. So macro page is the broad topic that explains the domain. Seed page is more like a category of that domain. And the node page is like long tail definition of something, of whatever belongs in that domain. And the way you link from macro, there's a certain, what makes this structure semantic content network is linking, internal linking. So what you do, you link from macro to seed and from seed to macro. So it's like back and forth. Then from seed to node and from node to seed. So you connect those as well, but you never link from node to macro. So there is always the structure where you link downstream and upstream, but you never skip a stage, and you can't link from macro to node. You link only to seed. And this structure is very effective because this is how information is stored in LLMs. So when LLM comes to your website and it sees a page, it can actually say, based on, it doesn't have to look at your whole network because LLMs, they don't see your website structure. But when it's looking on your page, it can understand what kind of frame is it, macro, is it seed, or is it node, just by the scope of the keyword and by the linking that you do on those pages.
Let's define those three terms real quick for my audience because I think I understand what they are. So it's seed, node, and what was the third? Macro.
Macro is domain.
Macro.
Macro is what defines the domain. Then the seed is like subcategory for that macro, and the node is a subcategory for that seed.
So it'd be like shoes, running shoes, Nike, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah.
Okay. So this is like a modified version of a topical map, then, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Yes, the difference between topical map and semantic content network, if everything is done properly, structure-wise, is that topical map becomes semantic content network when you connect it. So when you know what your nodes are, what your pages are, and you link them, a topical map becomes a semantic content network.
Yeah, yeah. So it's basically like Kind of like an almost an extra step of planning, but very similar. The two then fit into each other quite well, it seems.
Yeah. And you just got to make sure that you follow the logic, because the problem with the topical maps, and it's an issue, like I was learning Kare's framework and I struggled with it a lot because you don't know what to link to
Yeah.
sometimes. And the thing is that if you link it the wrong way, you confuse an LLM, because LLM expects macro link only to categories, to seed. If you start linking to nodes or to unrelated pages at all, then it breaks the structure, the confidence of the semantic content network, and you get like, slight negative signal for the retrieval. Adds confusion to analysis.
And why never link anything from a node? Just because the dead end, like that gives the full context? Is there a reason why we don't link from there?
From node,
Yeah. You said don't link out from node, I thought. Or no, did I misunderstand you?
we link out from node to seed. So it's the structure is like macro links to seed, seed links to a node links back to seed, seed link back
Oh, I
to
see.
macro.
I see.
So
Okay,
it's
I
like
got
this.
you.
It's a structure, like you go down, you go up, but you don't skip steps,
Yeah,
basically.
it's like old school silo structures where you have different ways of passing link juice between articles, right? I mean, similar, but
Yeah. Silos, they were keyword based. They were like very,
right.
very unstructured from a semantic content, from semantic point of view. Semantic content network is you have to build the page first. So micro semantics very important. And then you connect them properly. Then it becomes semantic content network.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, what would you say is the biggest misconception when people are talking about optimizing, to get discovered on these LLMs? What do you think people are messing up in the biggest way?
I think the biggest misconception is that people don't understand how LLM works. Like I hear a lot of statements like, LLM is stealing my content. I'm training LLM and I don't want to do it. And that's the problem, because LLM, it doesn't treat your content as training data. For LLMs, there are two major kind of like ways of working. Like it can either use its pre-training data that it got from like books, from high quality websites. The chances that you're gonna get into the data are very slim, especially if you're not major, huge brand like Forbes or like something very authoritative. So there is that data. And when that data is not enough, and it usually happens when somebody is asking some kind of subjective query, like best X for Y. Then what LLM does, it fetches basically a search engine. LLM can't work with search engine. It doesn't. Like search engine is prerequisite for an LLM, and it fetches LLM with certain queries. They called fan-out queries. It collects about 200 different results, and then from those results, it picks about eight. It goes through the process of elimination of a lot of low quality, what it considers like too expensive, that would be more precise term, websites, and it compiles an answer from those winning chunks, winning candidates, winning parts of article. And if you get into this chunk, you actually should be happy, because LLM decided that your content is good enough. Like you survived 200 other candidates to be included in that answer. The problem is that people don't know how to use it, probably. I think that's the main issue. If your site is being cited by LLM, it means that you need to optimize it in such a way that it retrieves what you want your potential customer to see. This way, you can say that, let's say, your solution to a problem is the best solution and your product can help with that problem. That's when LLM retrieval becomes super important and super effective. When it just retrieves information that kind of neutral, you kind of feel like it's stolen from you, but I think it's just perception problem and application of how to actually use it.
So, you mentioned cost or retrieval at least earlier. Are there different costs for different types of content in terms of retrieval? That like is that something you optimize so it's less expensive so that AI does retrieve it, or does that not really matter in terms of the discoverability?
Cost of retrieval is everything. LLMs, you probably heard like a lot of companies, they build this centers field of
Yeah,
processors
data
and they
centers.
spend a lot of energy. This is the compute power, and this is what the backbone, the inner workings of LLM. And all these models, because they have to analyze, they have to do all these complex calculations, they trying to save cost. But at the same time, they need to retrieve high quality information. So the idea of cost saving is that we create content that's very cheap for LLM to understand. Like it has the meaning very clear. It has boundaries, content boundaries. So LLM doesn't have to spend extra effort to analyze your content. And it's confident enough into saying like, okay, like this, like I don't need to analyze and I don't need to do 2 or 3 rounds of analysis and I don't need to consult other sites. This chunk seems like it's know what it's talking about. It's right. And it's with the highest degree of certainty that this is the correct answer. And that's what means cheap, quote unquote, for an LLM. It's just saving on
Is
the way.
this part of why you're putting the meaning so like condensed at the very top of the article? Is that like one of the
Yes,
optimization strategies for
yes.
cost? I see. That makes sense. That I imagine is one of the big ones. What are like one or two other like high powered like cost optimizations to increase that retrieval rate?
The main one is speed, speed on the website. It has to
Good
be
old
quick,
page.
page speed, yeah. Specifically, time to first byte. That's one of the most important ones because when LLM retrieves, when it analyzes all these websites from a search engine, if it likes your site, like let's say you have perfect metadata, because in the beginning it analyzes only metadata. It fetches Google or Bing in case of ChatGPT, and it takes the snapshot of search results. So it sees your title and it sees your meta description as it's shown in the search engine. And it analyzes those results, and that's the initial, the first pass. If you pass this stage, you get to the second stage where it actually accesses your website. And when it accesses your website, it doesn't analyze it completely. It doesn't do like indexing like the way Google does. It just kind of looks at it very briefly just to see what's inside. And if your website is slow, less than time to first byte is more than 300 milliseconds, you will completely discard it right away. So it's not going to even check your content. You're not going to even be considered into further analysis. That's one of the most important steps, like even if you want to be considered to be included in LLM. The other things are the content structure. Like you have to make sure that your passages are self-contained. Those would be like probably two biggest things. Your semantic content record might be off, but it's relatively small. I mean, it's not very small, but like LLM can discard it, kind of, but it has to see the meaning right away. Like the unpaged stuff is probably more important. Proper SEN is powerful, but when structured correctly. But even like kind of like noisy SEN can still work. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just have to be better than your competitors. So those are two things that are probably the most impactful.
When you're doing this, is there some tool you're using to track that visibility in the LLMs, or is it just when people like come in, you're seeing it through like analytics?
Right now, there are a lot of tools that do LLM tracking. I think like it's relatively easy from technical point of view. You create certain prompts, certain queries, and you just fetch them to LLM and you analyze what kind of results are being quoted. So a lot of companies coming up, and it's kind of expensive right now.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
Yeah, it's gonna get much cheaper over time. But there are tools that can track you how you show. I think the main issue this company is gonna face later, or the people analyze this, is that in what context is your brand
Yeah,
featured?
it's not like keywords. There's way more permutations with AI than there will be with SEO keywords.
Yeah, and like you can be featured in LLM, but in a negative way. Then you actually have a problem. Like you
Yeah,
should not
that
be.
does suck. That seems like a hard one to fix. So, two questions on this: the people tracking the ROI from LLM exposure, what would you recommend for them to do to track the actual customer conversion? Is it like, so I'll give you an example of what we do at Empire Flippers. So what we do when a person finds us, like a new lead comes into our CRM, we just straight up ask them, and they can fill anything they want. It's an open text field. Hey, how did you hear about us? And that's basically how we're tracking all the LLMs right now, like, oh, ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever. Is that what you are seeing your clients do as well to try to capture that return on investment?
Yeah, some data you can see through analytical tools, but it is a challenge for now, especially because a lot of people they consult LLM, and in many cases LLM is not going to even include a link.
Yeah.
So what the customer will do, they will go to Google, they enter your brand name, and they end up on your website.
I have had a lot of contacts that said they found me through ChatGPT, but HubSpot tells me Google Organic. So yeah, I can confirm.
Yeah, so it is a challenge. Hopefully, as time goes, somehow it can be resolved through some kind of analytical means. This field is still very, 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 very new.
Oh, it's so new. So this leads into my second part of the question. It is actually something I've been trying to figure out personally. Is like, okay, so we are getting all these leads coming in from LLMs, like a bunch of different LLMs, like Claude, ChatGPT, whatever. If I want to invest more time into expanding my leads through LLM, like with SEO, I can see keyword volume, or with Facebook ads, I can see clicks. Like I can see like the effort is increasing the visibility. And with SEO in particular, like there you're kind of capped at a certain level of visibility based on volume, right? But with ChatGPT, like how do you see like kind of the cap of the market share of what you can and can't get? Like if I'm getting, let's say, just 100 leads a month or whatever, and I put all this effort in, well, maybe there's only 5 extra leads to get, or maybe there's 1,000 leads to get. Like, I don't understand. Like, how do you measure the opportunity there for someone looking to scale up their visibility?
I think it's all about, like, we're looking at it from the wrong point of view. We're not optimizing for keywords, we optimize for intent. So if we know who our customer is, what kind of pain points they have, and if we optimize our websites so they are being retrieved and referred and offered as a solution to a problem, then it kind of resolves this issue. It comes to a question like how many customers you have with this problem, basically. And if you hit a limit with this particular customer, create a semantic content network and optimize your pages for a different problem that another potential group, customer group can have. And this way you can kind of like optimize for intent for the problem, not for the keywords.
That makes sense. Okay, well, before we get into the rapid fire section here, maybe give me just a brief, like we look into the crystal ball here. Where do you think things are going in terms of SEO and AI? Like, do you see more major shakeups like how we've seen the last couple of years, or do you see something different coming down the pipeline?
I think SEO is evolving. SEO is by any means as relevant as it's been, maybe even more important. So traditional SEO is the foundation for everything. If you're not in Google, you're not going to be retrieved. So you still need to do everything that the traditional SEO does. Then you need to do semantic SEO. Semantic SEO is the cornerstone of LLM optimization. So those are two major shifts. And the semantic SEO, surprisingly, is not like it's still considered a niche kind of like technology or like niche practice. But people really need to learn more about it and understand how entities relate to each other, how LLMs see content. And eventually, it's all going to change instead of ranking for keywords to ranking for intent and for customer problems, maybe like another 2 5 years. But it's changing. The foundation stays the same, but the way we achieve it is going to be slightly different.
I feel much the same. I think we're heading towards the day where the 10 blue links are no longer there. I don't know if it'd be 2 years, maybe closer to your 5 year range. I could see that in the realm of possibility. Okay, well, we're moving to the rapid fire section. So I'm going to ask you 3 quick questions and you give me 3 quick answers. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right, let's do it. No pressure, man. I cannot send this to Corey unless this very, very good answers. All right. I need to keep his respect of me high. I trust you. I trust you. All right. First question. What has been the best hidden growth opportunity with AI today?
It's that nobody knows how it works, and you can relatively easy create a semantic content network and create articles that fit your customer best, and you can capture that customer before he goes to a competitor.
Love it. What tools or resources can people use to help their business be more AI retrievable?
I use LLMs. I have my own custom GPT model that helps me with a lot of things. Any content optimization tools, they're useful. I'm gonna come up like with a new tool set that works for me. So I'm gonna hopefully offer it as well in the next couple of months. But good custom trained LLM is a very nice start.
Gotcha. And my final question, the hardest question. What has been your funniest moment working in the SEO and AI industry?
How stupid AI sometimes get.
That's a good one. That's a good answer. The hallucinations can be pretty wild.
It's ridiculous. It's like the smartest and the stupidest thing that humanity ever created. It boggles my mind how silly sometimes it gets.
Is the most absolutely confident liar I have ever met. I had
Yeah.
this thing. I forget exactly what I was doing. I was trying to. I think it was an NAN workflow. And I was asking how should I do this, and it's like, oh, do this. Like, okay, it kind of worked, then stopped working. Like, oh, it's not working. It's like, oh, do this. Like, still didn't work. Like, all right, that didn't work. Like, oh, this one will definitely work. And then we go like 8 levels deep, and it gives me this long intro for its final thing. Like, this is the final suggestion. This will 100% work, 100% guaranteed. It will work. And I do it. It doesn't work. He's like, like, yeah, I'm so angry. I hate ChatGPT. What are you doing? So yeah, I feel you on that one. Well, man, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. For anyone out there in my audience that wants to connect with you, maybe engage you with your SRO strategy or just talk shop, where's the best place for us to send people?
They can come to my website, semanticvector.com or sergeylucktinov.com, and there is a contact form and a link to LinkedIn. And yeah,
Awesome. Well, we'll put all of those in the show notes. And thanks for coming on, Sergey. Appreciate it.
yeah, thank you for having me.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you inspired at all the different things that are happening in this industry. And of course, if you just want to buy a highly profitable business, you can always go to empireflippers.com/marketplace, or maybe you want to make an exit of your highly profitable business, and you could go to empireflippers.com/sell your site. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review, give us a like, a follow, share it across social media. Talk to you all soon. See you on the next episode.